Raji, I'm curious, you were a pioneer, you had a vision for the email marketing business some years ago. What learnings and what core parts of that business can you take forward to use to address the millennial group, and what kind of contrasts are there that you could point out?
Absolutely. Let me just, first off, it's great to be here. Good to see you all. I want to just say that let's analyze the purchase behavior that a 24-year-old has now. If he has to buy a laptop, and we'll stick with the laptop theme here, they usually know about the product from, either from the web or an email or the print or TV. But what do they do first? They go online, they learn everything about the product, then they go to the website, get the price, the specs, then they go to a site that sells the product and read all the user reviews. So now they know how, not only what the product does, they know how the people who have bought the product like the product, they know everything about the product. What do they then do? They go to Price Grabber, figure out the lowest price, and then buy it. So loyalty is going to change. The way we know and we think about loyalty is going to change with this generation. With email's primarily been a push mechanism. We started out thinking we'll get consumers to send us back email and create a dialogue, but it never materialized. Email just became a glorified, much faster, less expensive way to send mail to consumers. The promise of the technologies today is that you can engage the millennials, you can get them to participate because that's what they crave. The information asymmetry has gone away. So I'm going to start with the contrast. The contrast between email and social media or engaging the millennial generation is that you have to engage them, you have to have a conversation with them, and you have to be prepared to listen to them. So that's something that you're not used to doing in email. So that's the big contrast that I see. In terms of similarities, I see a lot of marketers. I was at TwitterCon yesterday, which is a conference for Twitter businesses that use Twitter. So there were about 250 people there, brands like Virgin and Dell and Comcast, a lot of pioneers in that space. The energy was just outstanding. What I saw a lot of brands do was just dabble in the media. They think they can just go to Facebook, create a page, put an application together, create an account on Twitter, and then they think they're engaging the millennials or they're having a marketing program running. You have to apply everything you've learned in direct marketing to this channel. What do we do in direct marketing? What do we do with email? We have a strategy, then we execute, then we measure, then we analyze. Because the channel is so new, people don't apply that regimen to this, and I think you should, and that's where the similarity should start.
Okay, great. And Atle, I'm curious now, we're talking about communicating with this group. How do we as a big brand put ourselves in the shoes of a big brand, whether it's Dell or Campbell or Citibank? How do we even speak to these people in this group? Do we use their language, quote unquote? Do we, within the context of social media, do we try to be ourselves? Do we try to relate to them? How do we manage communications? And maybe most importantly, how do we avoid becoming the spammers of the new age?
It's a good question. I think it's very important to remember who you're talking to. We keep using that cliche as marketers, but it's not as obvious looking at a lot of social media strategies out there. Spend time with who you're talking to. Bill mentioned that we're two different generations. What's obvious to a 24-year-old might not be as obvious to the 40-year-old CMO in a corner office trying to market to this guy. Just because a channel is hot doesn't mean that you should be there, and just because a channel is hot doesn't mean that you can do whatever and it'll succeed. You have to actually spend a lot of time with your audience to understand how you're going to talk to them. I think what's really important is to understand the difference between ROI and ROE, which is basically return on engagement is a new strategy that we see in a lot of these hot social media channels. The fact that you want to be there doesn't mean that you're going to make money on it. The fact that you want to be there doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. But you will get engagement around your brand and around your message if you do it right. The typical 24-year-old is very different from the previous generation. Expectations around what you're supposed to pay for something, what you're supposed to get back is absolutely flip-flop from a generation ago, and even more for 2 generations ago. Think of YouTube. We take it for granted. It's basically a free service for search for whatever you want and you'll find a video. That was unheard of 5 to 10 years ago. Why do we want to be in these channels? Obviously because there's a lot of people there. But you have to ask yourself, why are people there? Because it's a very clean, streamlined service that provides exactly what this audience is expecting. Free, no BS, exactly what I want. And once you start cluttering that, it's going to be a lot harder to keep their attention. The same goes for email marketing, the same goes for direct marketing. Whoever's doing that still probably wouldn't work that well with millennials, but it's all about relevancy. Don't try and outsmart these guys. We had a focus group back in Boston a few weeks back, and we had several students in that focus group say, there's no banners on Facebook. These guys they grew up with computers in their lab. Their filters are so much more developed than the average 40 to 50-year-old that they filter out noise. They don't see banners. They don't see things that are irrelevant to why they're using a service.
Interesting. So it raises a question too about what kind of value proposition is going to be appealing to the group. And Bjorn, you've been involved with a discounting-oriented program, and there are a lot of loyalty and rewards programs out there where people could accumulate a currency. There's cash back. I mean, you're an advocate of discounts. Why is that?
Well, it's if you look at what these people are doing, they're doing things that give them instant gratification. If you look at the loyalty programs, a lot of them, the points and miles-based programs, you have to transact quite a bit to understand that you'll get a benefit out of them. Cashback, real discounts are instant and they're real. And this, like Atle said it, this group is all about no BS. Don't try to trick me. Don't try to find a way where you're going to make some money on the breakage or all these kind of things. They'll understand that. They'll see straight through it. And also don't treat them like they're young and inexperienced, because they're more savvy than any of us in these types of technologies. So to go off of what Atle was saying, I think that we have to just treat them as, first of all, we can't treat them as just one group, because they're probably more diverse than any other demographic. They're a large group, and for college students, you have the athletes, and you have the book smarts, and you have the alternative rockers. They're very, very different people to market to. We advocate discounts because it's something that sort of resonates with everybody. They don't have a lot of money, and that's something that's interesting to everybody. So be transparent. Don't try to be them, because you're not, and be very upfront with them. And that's where a student discount program is very honest, straightforward, free to join and get a good deal. And they'll know if they get a good deal or not, because they'll do all the things that Roger was saying here.